status, orchard, and so Benedek has worked a lot to merge 110x into dev, all the changes, and yeah, the merging, and all the fixes on 110x. What do we have? Code generation, fixing code generation, HTTPS protocol, in the URL. Okay, this is what I did also in Orchard Core. This one, which is that updating the copy resolution files build target to Orchard Web project. Okay. Okay, apparently this folder includes the version. Removing necessary step from build views target. Okay. Orchard Proj, fixing the build views should be able to run without running compile first. So we can build the views. Interesting. Subquery improvement for HqlExpression. We merged this pull request from Giuseppe, which allows you to use a subquery in HQL when you want to use the in with a list of integers. You can do an in with another select query. It's a new extension method, so it should not break anything. You don't have to use it if you don't want to. And there is so it's tagged as release for 1.10.3, and there is a release note, which is where, let's go on the Orchard repo, it must be there in release. The releases, where is the release? How do I find the release here? Oh yeah, you have to go to code and then see release. Okay, so that you can read the list of changes in present release notes. So you can, if you use Orchard 1, I suggest you update it and you try it. Report feedback, read the release notes, and if nothing critical is found in the next 2 days, we'll make it the official release for 1.10.3 and announce it, and we'll change the branches to be 1.10x for the next minor release, and we'll start releasing also 1.11, but first we release 1.10.3. No questions? Benedek is here now. Did I say it right?
I don't know. I just arrived like 5 seconds ago.
So I suggest everyone to test it, and because it's the pre-announcement, people are here, and we'll have the video. So let's give it a few days, and in a few days, when they know about the release, we'll make it the official one, and then release 1.10.11. Sorry, 1.11. Okay.
1.11 still has a bunch of issues, by the way.
After.
So yeah, it's going to take a bit longer, unfortunately, but yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Benedek, for all this work.
Sure.
Okay, good. That's it for Orchard 1, Orchard 2, Orchard Core here. Just need to check out to get to the top. That will make so many releases, as I'm sure people will get confused. So what's new for this week? We have add step variable for the for loop in the workflow. So you can access the step variable, which is the value of the iterator in the for loop. Add jQuery as dependency of icon picker script. Apparently it was missing in some context, so now it's added. See, that's a dependency of font picker here. I can't go further, which is weird, but it's here. Somewhere depends on something. Why isn't it scrolling? That's weird. Okay, I can't scroll. Fixed introspection for content item type in ignored fields from Carl. Fixing GraphQL bugs. And this one also, fix GraphQL bugs. And you see all of them are collapsed and things, weird things for the part name, for the part string at the end of the part that is removed or collapsing. All the quirks that happen when you start doing weird things. I hope it's the last one. Adding configurable upload limits. Configurable upload limits, which I had to revert. I will show you later. So probably you just talk about it with the next commit, because this one was breaking, so you could not upload media after that, just when you publish the application, because of orders in this filter. But I changed the code to do it differently, so we'll see later. Allow theming for login, registration, reset password. So this one is a significant change in the way it works. So now the login views, registration, login, and create account. So registration, forgot password, reset password, and login are no more admin controllers, which means they are not rendered by the admin theme. They should not be, but this logic is moved into a theme selector, this one, that will set the admin theme as a default theme for rendering the login views, the same as it was before, but the logic is externalized into a theme selector. And because of that, we can now have it based on a setting. So by default it will be the admin, but now there is a setting for the different screens. You see login setting, registration settings, and reset password setting. So you could just say, okay, login and registration, or just registration, is using the front-end theme. That will let you override, so customize these screens, these views, in your front-end theme. So you don't have to create a custom admin theme just to override these views. But at the same time, by default, it's still using the admin, so you don't have to theme the login. It will always use the admin one. For most websites, that's fine. But if the login experience is part of the front-end experience, then you can now enable these settings. Okay. Initialize content picker field with empty array to fix a potential null reference exception. Fix another null reference exception. Property attribute to the meta tag helper from Seth, so you can add a property attribute now to the meta tags. Disable encoding for templated queries from Jasmine. So the idea is that if you are creating SQL or Lucene queries, these queries are actually templated. So if you use Liquid inside your query, it will be evaluated and rendered using Liquid. The issue was that the default logic was to HTML encode every output tag, which means if you were injecting something from the outside, it will be safe, but in HTML, so it will convert it to HTML. And HTML is not SQL and is not Lucene, so it was wrong encoding. So now they are not using any encoding, but you are supposed to use a new liquid filter for JSON, for instance, which will encode into JSON. It's the pipe JSON filter if you want to inject a string into JSON. And for SQL, it's safe. Whatever you enter will be parsed by the SQL parser, so it will prevent any injection. Okay. Well, it will prevent an injection. If you inject something from the outside in the template, then you have an issue. You still need to encode it or to use parameters. You should not inject any value. You should use parameters, which will be correctly parsed. So the idea is that the main change is in here when it's calling to render the template, it's passing a null encoder and not to override the default HTML encoder. Okay. And yes, in this method, Liquid Template Manager, otherwise the default is HTML encoder. And by the way, in the latest version of Fluid, the default encoder is null encoder. So it's not encoding in HTML by default. Liquid doesn't say that it should be encoded in HTML. You should still use the HTML encoder when you render HTML with Liquid Templates, but it's no more the default. Refactor Liquid Templates with custom encoders, and yes, when I committed that and then I refactored it to do it differently, so we don't have to instantiate a string writer at this level. Just add a method here to reuse the existing one. So this was a commit merge, which is weird. Simplify theme template. What did I do? So there was something to do, and at the same time I changed the URLs to use HTTPS, and the change was to, yes, so Thierry Fleury found that the themes were generating recipes that didn't work. So I decided that when you use the template to generate a new theme, it won't generate a recipe. We might create another template to generate a recipe, but I don't think creating a theme should create a recipe, and with what. If you want a recipe, then you can copy paste it from the existing ones and then change them as you want. I also simplified the default templates, so they are not specific to any rendering. They just output the view and copy the body tag, and that's it. No more menu customization either. Yeah. Okay, so it's simplifying the template for the themes. Yeah, that's me, I merged badly. This is updating ImageSharp to use the latest version. Clean up media file resolver. When I saw the code I fixed it. We don't need to async await a finite value. Okay, we just return the task. Fixing taxonomy recipes, which are reverted later. So there is an issue if you use taxonomies during recipe. I tried to fix it, but it made everything broken, so I reverted it, and the issue is still open. And it will be fixed with a PR that is ready from Jean-Thierry that will be merged in RC, because it's changing too many things. So this is merge commit. Fix typo in icon picker style tag. So there was a wrong URL in this resource. Update content field readme from James Hawkins, who added the documentation for the fields that were missing. Okay, we also decided to change the way you access the properties by duplicating the major properties from the fields. Isn't it that in this PR? Here I will jump here, so that here we are removing all the properties from the view models that are not necessary and adding the ones that are useful at the view level model. And the change is that it makes it this way. So when you render a field, you don't have to do model.field. Well, if you're in the field template, or you don't have to do .field.text, you can directly access the .text. And the documentation has been updated accordingly, which is super nice. Okay, the previous one will still work because we still have access to the main field data, but the main properties are also available at the parent level. So no break-in change. Disable layers on admin themes. This is based on the fact that now that the controller for the user, for the account, is no more an admin controller, the layers will still try to render layers in these views. So now what it's doing, instead of being based on the admin attribute, it's based on the fact that this is the current admin theme that is used. This way, if it's using the admin theme, the widgets won't be injected in the login views. If it's using the front-end theme, then the widgets will be injected from the layers module. Represent OIDC authorities as System.Uri. The issue was that when you were trying to configure OpenID, It used to not require a slash at the end of the redirection server, but now it requires it. And the issue was that it was not using URIs everywhere, but strings somewhere, or paths, I don't know. But now it's consistent everywhere. It's using the same logic to parse everything. This one revert the fixing taxonomy recipes because it broke everything, and I reopened the issue. Refactoring media validation to fix the media upload, and now what it's doing, it's that it's done in the controller, same way. So, oh yeah, let me explain the feature because I didn't explain it. Oh my god, the editor is completely broken. I can't click on anything. Let me open it on Chrome. Orchard Core. And if I go to code and to media, here, so now what we have in the configuration, so the red is because I assume we didn't mark it as JSON, or maybe JSON doesn't support commands, but JSON.net does, so it doesn't know how to render that. So what we have is the new, with this PR, we have max file size. So you can define what is the maximum file that a user can upload on the assets module. And this 30,000 is the default. But be careful, if you put it higher, you will hit the limit of IIS if you're running IIS, because IIS also has its own limit. So if you put like 100,000, then it's IIS that will fail, because IIS is also using 30,000 by default. So you will need to also prevent IIS from blocking you. There is a setting which I point here to. And if you put it lower, then that's fine, because you won't even reach the limits from IIS. Okay, so the max file size. And then I also, by the way, I did that things, which is the list of extensions you can upload to prevent by default some exe or whatever malicious files some user could upload. So this is a whitelist, and I use the same values as WordPress. Shame on me. Here, okay, and this way you can change the list of extensions you can accept. I tried to be thorough with what you could use, so it should be fine. I didn't accept zip by default, so if you want to add zip files, then you just have to change this list here. Okay. Questions? Then allow to alternate on processing. So I'm taking it lately, but I didn't think it will be an issue. It will allow to define alternates after processing event. So, well, in the processing event. So we'll see how it goes. I think it should be fine. It should not be an issue, because we are just being able to add alternates in some other method before it's resolved and not after it's resolved. So, well, you see, we resolve the alternate. Before it was before processing anything is called. Now it's after, so we can resolve the alternates after going into processing. And he added a unit test, so plus bonus points. And then fix OpenID certificates on Azure App Service. So Kevin fixed it, which is setting some different certificates settings while trying with the default one, and then with some other settings if it fails, because apparently on Azure you need some custom flags to be able to create a certificate. And we create certificates dynamically for OpenID certs, which is self-signed certificates. They don't have to be public. Okay. Good questions. So, with that, if I go to issues and I go to milestone beta 3, it's empty, so we can ship. I suggest that we make a release and the same time frame as version 1 actually, I hope it won't be confusing. And because the issues we fixed this week were break-in change we introduced recently, so there is no major new issue. We'll do a triage on Thursday, but I didn't see anything crazy. The pull requests here are almost all of them waiting for RC, or can wait for RC. I don't want to take any risk. Like updating fluid, for instance, I won't do it in beta 3. It might be faster, but break-in changes, I can show you the result. Yeah, no, never. Who said that? Dude. Stupid. Then updating readme, this is safe. Just one comment to add it in the talk. Attach media files is media field. It's still work in progress. New module. This is interesting, but I'm afraid we will break something. I need to check that. I don't want to break anything. Then what do we have? Path base, we might need to check that, but again, I don't want to break anything, and so far everything working. It's just in IS, specifically in IS. Oh, sorry, IS with virtual path, which is not that common. And the rest is RC things. Okay. Questions for the release? Main thing that is missing are tutorials, like documentation, but not technical documentation like we have, but more like, well, not reference documentation, but more tutorials to explain how to do stuff, actual stuff from A to Z. So we'll have to work on that, and that's it. I checked the perf yesterday. It was super fast. It's too fast. I don't know what we should do. We can be faster for sure. We don't work on performance, but it was super fast. Like on my machine, to display a blog or a blog post, it was like 2,800 requests per second using SQLite. So it's local, but at the same time, it's also using SQLite, so it can be faster. So it should be very fast. What else? Have questions about the release or topics? Am I missing something? Once we ship beta 3, we'll work on localization. Some people have already started on that. Apparently someone already finished it. We just need to see the PR now. Maybe you didn't see that. Did we talk about it? Issues. Localize. So last week we had a meeting. Remember, if you were on the meeting, after the meeting, I stayed in the meeting room here, and we talked with what's his name? It's JP, and to design to start the module and for him to start the working on localization. And the day after, someone was like, "Hey, I already made everything. So do you want to see that?" And he did 90% of all the things required. I just asked if he did that and not ready, but he will change it. So that's super nice. He said he would create a PR, and we are eager to seeing it, Jan. But he did all the things that we need: localization set, edit the part driver to show the localization part in the content items, request culture provider, which is wrong, but he understood the requirements. The idea is that it will select the server-side language based on the current content item displaying. So if you are looking at a content item that is for French, then the server local will be French. So that's nice. Service, culture picker from front end if you want to switch from one language to the other on the front end. So all the things are good here, and apparently he's using it on his website, so it's super nice. So this should be a quick localization feature. It should be ready, available very soon. So that's the main work. As soon as we merge also beta 3, I will, well, as we release beta 3, I will merge some of the PRs very aggressively. All the updates, all the things from Jean-Thierry with networking and new scopes and everything, that will be good. It will break most of the things, but these are necessary. And that's it. That's all I had to say. Does anyone have questions? No questions. That's good. Then, in this case, I'll end the meeting, and we'll probably ship everything, well, 1.10.3 on Thursday, and beta 3 right after that, at least release candidate, just to check that everything is working. Okay, fine. Thanks everyone. See you on Thursday or next week. Bye bye.